Hello, everybody. So, this is week 2 of our free web development bootcamp run by Class Central. Way. And for those of you who are joining me, you've gotten through one whole week. You've gotten through 1/6 of the entire bootcamp. You say, wait, Jess, I'm showing up late. There's no such thing as late. You are absolutely not late. Even if you're just starting today, nothing bad is going to happen. There's no attendance. The big thing I want to stress, and I hope this isn't too personal, is I had a really tough time in school. So school and even university has a lot of opportunities for really times to get into trouble. Oh, you skipped class, or oh, you didn't turn in your homework. I really want to stress that this is not what we're doing here. There is no attendance. You will never be in trouble. As long as you adhere to the codes of conduct and are nice to each other, there's really no way to get in trouble. In as much as anything can be fine in 2022, stuff is going to be fine. We're just going to learn in a nice, soft, controlled, mellow way. And hopefully, nothing bad will happen to us because we are going to do some HTML today. And we've learned HTML can't hurt us. Nothing's wrong here. So let's take a look at the stuff we've done so far. It's telling me to resume my project because I only did what I've done on the stream. Last week, we did some HTML and built that cat photo app. Cool. We got some introductory looks at CSS. And then we started doing a little bit of CSS art. I'm going to give you all a second. What was the worst thing that we studied? What was the hardest or worst? You could pick. Because today we are going to focus on the thing that I think is the hardest and really the part of HTML that I like the least. So I'm going to try not to grumble too much and set a bad example because we're going to be doing more HTML forms. And I complain about HTML forms because there's a lot of syntax to remember and it's kind of hard. But these kind of semantic forms, oh, I got other people. I got T saying, you know what, forms are absolutely the worst. But sci-fi is saying, you know what, I thought colors were the hardest. I respect that. I respect Ramya, you're splitting the difference. You're always diplomatic. You're like, you know what? Forms and colors are hard. But a lot of you, forms are hard. Emily is saying, do you know what? Margin and padding is a little bit. Let's talk about that one more time, just real fast. So think about the margin of books, the white space around the text in books. And that's a good way to remember margin is always on the outside. Whereas padding, think about a bear or a bunny, animals that sleep through the winter. They need to eat extra snacks right now to build up padding. So padding's the stuff on the inside, margin's the stuff on the outside. Yeah. So we've got a lot of people saying forms are miserable. Let's do some forms. And this one's going to be especially challenging because y'all are definitely going to have to bail me out a bunch. I consistently, stubbornly forget the syntax for forms. But this is giving us a really, really practical look at what kinds of stuff we might be using. Yeah. So this is just registration form, first name, last name. And I think this is going to be exciting because this is going to show us the different types of text. And you say, well, they're all text boxes. I say, ha, 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 ha. Let's start coding. Okay. And we're going to go a little fast through this part because this, oh, heck. This is the stuff we've done a lot. Oh, type HTML. We're just setting up what's going on in our. What do you mean? Oh. You love me saying, hey, we're going to go super fast because we all know what this is. And then I added extra space. Technically, it'll work with the space, but it's not correct. HTML. And let's, in our HTML element, set our language to equal to. And I'm so sorry, team. I think I might be a little bit more scattered than usual. So here on number 3, we've added our doc type, our HTML. We're going to add a head. Close our head. Very, very weird set. And set up a body. and close our body. And we're just doing this super fast. And you say, Jess, why are they making us do this again? I say, oh, well, you know what? If you think this is repetitive, wait till you start doing web development for like every day. This is just a heads up to say, hey, you know what? If you did want to donate to the nonprofit that is Free Code Camp, not to the boot camp, there's no way to pay the boot camp. You can go ahead and set up a donation. I'm going to be very mean to y'all because if you don't have the money right now, do not donate. Like, don't you dare feel any pressure to spend money you don't have. So we're going to add a title. We're just going to do that super fast. And here we're going to add a head, and we're going to close our head. Everything's chill. Our project title is going to be registration form. So we're going to come in and Command C and Command V. And here, let's go ahead and add a meta. Oh, heck, I'm doing this wrong, aren't I? Oh, I'm doing this extremely wrong. I've put a head inside the head. Add a title and meta tag. Don't put a head tag inside the head tag. Let's add that meta tag, which it asked for. Now, y'all are being patient as anything because I think I am having a very Monday. This is UTF-8. In the past, we've done UTF-8 with lowercase, and that works just fine. This works just fine too. We've got that little green stripe. Nothing bad. The thing I really want to stress again and again and again is right now, all y'all have to do is learn. Nothing like those of you who are like professional programmers already are going to chuckle at this because you know I'm lying a little bit. But right now, as learners, programming can't hurt you and web development can't hurt you. When you have to do it day in, day out, that's when you start to accumulate that psychic damage. But here, we're just learning. There's no real way to fail. Everything's fine. Even when we get stuck, we're just stuck for a while. Where am I? Where are we? Let's add a self-closing link in here. And I bet y'all know what we're going to do with this link. The rel, this is where we're connecting our style sheet. Style sheet. And we're going to have a ref. We're going to throw that chain and the anchor. Oh, we're going to spell it right. We're going to set it to styles.css. Oh, heck, come back. Is it? Hey, because you can use Command and Enter to submit your stuff as well as a little shortcut. So we're going to do our body. Let's add an H1. Remember, our H1 is our most important heading, not necessarily our biggest heading, because we can do weird stuff with CSS. We've got our registration form. And I'm just going to copy and paste that in because I am a little bit lazy. Oh, I have accidentally unmuted myself in another window, which was absolutely terrifying. Oh, cool. Step 7. Below the heading, let's take this text and put it in a paragraph. Remember, a paragraph's a P, and we've got a closing paragraph. And again, because we are, of course, y'all aren't lazy, but because I am a happy, lazy programmer, I'm going to copy and paste. We see that pop in there. And perfect, beautiful. Now we have to do CSS. Oh, no. So let's add some CSS. Let's add some rules to the body. And this is a type selector. Let's say all of the bodies we have on this page, which is, exactly 1. And we're going to add a width of, am I doing this right? 100%. And a height that is equal to 100% of the viewer window height. And this is wild because we're kind of asking for the same thing twice. Because on the width, I'm saying, hey, go ahead and take the body and make it 100% of the space I have available. Okay, yeah. But then for height, I'm saying, hey, please make this 100% of the view width height. And so these are both relative measurements, but they feel pretty similar to me, don't they? We check our code. Everything's fine. Let's go ahead and get rid of this. We got a little scroll bar on the bottom. And that's because by default, and default means automatically. So automatically, some browsers add a little bit of a margin. Oh, Lynn is asking, what's a view height? Let's go ahead and look that up. MDNVH. And I'm just searching for, I'm using DuckDuckGo because I like their search. And I'm searching for MDNVH. We're going to find CSS values and units. And I'm going to copy and paste this in here just so we can all hang out and learn it together. Oh, do you know what? And here, let me find view height. Whoop. This is 1% of the viewport's height. And the viewport is the size of your window. Yeah? I'm going to come back to the forum, but really quick, I've got a perfect question. And Ramya, this is really, really useful. So does the height change with the size of the monitor used? Yes, but it's not just the size of the monitor. So a lot of different types of, so if you're on a computer where you've got a mouse, you can drag, you can make your window smaller or bigger. Yeah. So it's not just the size of your screen, it's the size of the window you're viewing the website in right now. Yeah, it's such a good question. I massively appreciate that. So here it says 100% of the view width, but we've got a little bit of extra scroll here and a little bit of extra scroll here because by default, just out of the box, I'm using Chrome for this because it plays nice with our streaming. It plays nicest with my streaming software. I'm using StreamYard if anybody else wants to get into streaming. It's okay. And Chrome just automatically adds a little tiny margin, a little padding on the outside of our body. I don't really want that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, hey, I want to set the margin. I'm going to overrule your default margin. And I'm going to set you to 0. You can have no, oh, and I'm going to take this away again. Watch the side and the bottom. Very subtle. Actually, let's go ahead and make this a little bit. Oh, is that not? Give me a second to mutter darkly at myself. Very professional. Yeah, that works. So we see down here at the bottom that we've got a little scroll bar. And we see here on the side, we've got a little scroll bar. And when I type in, you all are very patient with me resizing windows and muttering. When I had this 0, both of those should vanish because right now Chrome is saying, I gave you a little bit of margin. I gave you a little bit of space outside your body. And what I'm going to say is I'm going to override this. I'm going to say your default, nah, Bab. Sorry, Bab is a Birmingham regionalism for hun or sweetie or, oh gosh, is there a friendly sort of way to say dude or friend or hun or mate where y'all are based? I'm not from Birmingham originally. It says our code passes. Everything's fine. Everything's going to be fine. Let's bop along. Somebody said they were stuck at number 17. So let's bop on to 7. We'll get there in a second. Oh, some of you said that hex codes were really hard. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of hex codes. I'm very, very, very bad at hex codes. So I think these are going to be a mystery to me, what these are going to turn out to be. We're going to come into body. We're going to set a background. We're going to set them to, oh, so some of y'all say friend. I think here, if you say, hey, what's up, friend? It's a little bit aggressive here. Some of y'all say bestie or buddy. Oh, bestie's quite. See, bestie feels very 90s. And don't forget with a hex code, we had this, we say hash these days, don't we? We had the hashtag sign first, just as, oh dear. That's not going to work, is it? We've got that dark blue, which I think is a good color, but we don't have enough contrast between our text and we don't have enough contrast between our text and our background. So I think when we say color next, because we've got background color and color, here what color is going to do is it's going to set the color of the content, in this case, the text. And we got this hash. I'm going to copy and paste you just because I'm nice and lazy. That sounds very threatening, doesn't it? I'm going to copy and paste you. Here, the hex code. Yeah. Okay, so we've got white on blue. Why? And this is a genuine question I'm asking you. Why is it important to have enough contrast, enough color difference between the text and the background? And while I'm letting you all answer, I'm going to check my code. We've got that green stripe. Everything's fine. Everything's easy. Nothing can hurt us. Okay, so we're creating a form. Let's go ahead and create the form. Oh no. Form. We close our form as well. Yeah. We got a really good. Hey, why do we need enough difference here? It's really because of accessibility. And here, accessibility can often mean I want to make my website visible or viewable or usable for folks using technology that helps overcome barriers they might have accessing. But this is very general accessibility because it makes it easier to read. And this is a big thing. Accessibility makes things easier for everyone when you do a good job. Another one, like, look, I can't even see the text. If it's dark on dark, you gotta fix it. Yeah. Readability and accessibility. Hey, we got a really good question from Esther to say, hey, so background color was the color of the background. Cool, cool, cool. Here is color for the text color. So color's not just for the text, it's for the content, but content is usually going to be the text, isn't it? So anything that goes in the body, if anything that can be turned white that's in the body, which is almost always going to be text, isn't it? Oh, yeah, it's good user experience to be able to read the text. Y'all are so far ahead of me and so good at this. I absolutely adore how careful and thoughtful you are as web developers. While I'm copying this in, so our form action, this is where the information's going to go. Ah, we've got that little green stripe. Nothing is wrong. Nothing can hurt us. Let's bop along. Okay, so we're going to have 3 different sections for our forms. Cool, cool, cool. We're going to add 3 field set elements within the form element. And you know what? Field set element. Why am I going to add 3 field set elements? Let's look this up. Oh, I don't want that search. I want the search. You see the field set element. And this is whatever we could do where you're like, hey, you're asking me to do a field set element, but I don't feel very confident in this. Why do I need a field set? And here, right at the top, it's going to tell me, hey, Jess, or hey, user, or hey, Bab. The field set HTML element is to group several controls as well as labels. And this means we're going to take the question and the space for the answer or the options for the answers, and we're going to connect those together. And here's a really good example to say, hey, choose your favorite monster. We've grouped these together in the same field set because it's part of the same question. Yeah. And this is really, really important for accessibility. We'll go ahead and I'm trying to get one of my I can't pick favorites with guests. That's so mean. But a guest I am terrifically fond of, we're waiting to hear back from, who's just amazing. So we're going to put a field set. We're going to have 3 field sets inside our form. And what are happy developers? Are we lazy? Field set open. And I'm going to close you down here. Field set. Because I am cheerfully lazy and setting bad examples for you. Open and close, open and close, open. Oh, and we see these boxes come in to say, okay, I think you're going to group up some question and answers here. Let me go ahead and draw you some boxes. If we don't want them to be boxes, we can get rid of those with CSS later. We're going to check our code. And this green stripe suggests that we could just go ahead and keep chilling. Okay, so the first field set is going to hold the name, address, and password fields. Cool, cool, cool. That means I need 4 label elements. Yeah. So the labels, and I say, well, why am I going to use a label? I say, ha, ha, ha. Well, first, what are the 3 different things you can do when you don't know what's going on? You can ask somebody. Oof, But on a stream, I'm afraid you're going to have to usually ask me, which is going to be pleasantly rubbish. You can ask someone, you can look it up, or you can experiment. And I think with stuff like this, where it's, why am I using that? Asking someone and looking it up are probably the friendliest ways to do it. So, the label input element. Okay. Okay, the label HTML. Oh, no, that's not what I want. Oof. Yes, this looks like what I want. Label for cheese. Do you like cheese? Okay, so here I'm connecting what is the question with what are my answers. Okay, I'm sort of stapling the question and answer to each other much more carefully. Yeah. And y'all are like yelling search. I could Google, I could use DuckDuckDuck, I could do, yeah, just looking it up. Back in my day, we just said web search. Or, back in my day, they'd be like, ask Jeeves, because there were some search engines that existed at the time that are now dead. Oh, is that true? Is Ask Jeeves gone? So name, address, and passwords. We want four label elements. All right. We've copied and pasted. The indentation here is rubbish, but it's going to magically do these for us. We get a green stripe. We can continue to move on peacefully. All right. Ooh, we're going to add the following text to these labels. And do we need a P for that text? Let me come back and look at the label element. And do you know what? It seems to just go ahead and put the text there without the P. Yeah. I think we can go ahead and do that. And if we're wrong, the test is going to be like, no, you can't do that. So here we've got enter your first name. And we're not actually adding the labels yet. So we've got our labels. We haven't given the value of what that's equal to yet. And I bet we're going to do that in the next step. Ooh. Oh, cool. So we've got some people asking, well, what's with the name? What's with the name? Let's look it up when we get to it. Look at me out here setting good examples to be like, well, when we don't understand it, let's look it up together. Yeah. I think this is what it's asked for. Look at this immediate value. And it's okay when stuff goes wrong. It's okay when stuff is stressful. Hey, listen to me. It's okay when stuff is stressful. How rubbish. As label element, and we've talked about this before, how there are two types of, so all of our elements are conceptual rectangles, imaginary rectangles, sometimes invisible rectangle. Everything's a rectangle. But there's two ways to place our rectangles. Inline elements are rectangles on the same line, whereas block goes on a new line when you start a new element. And here I say, you know what? I've got these four label elements, and by default, they're in line. They want to sit on the same line if there's space. But I don't really want that. I want them to sit on a different line each time, please. And I could go through in the HTML and add style, but I'm very lazy. So I'm going to do this here. I'm going to pick a label type selector. I'm going to say, hey, I want to set the display to block. Hey, and immediately they just rush out. Yeah. So I've got a couple questions. We've got somebody asking, hey, can we talk a little bit more about the name attribute? And we'll do that as well. And somebody's like, hey, can we talk a little bit more about the legend? I'll go ahead and look those up, and we'll talk about those as we hit them, if that's okay. I'm not ignoring you. I'm not trying to be mean. I'm always trying to be mean. Oh, my code does not pass. Oh, gosh, you've told me to do it. As the label elements are inline by D. I thought I just did that. Oh. Did I do it in the wrong place? Oh, I haven't done all the things I need to do. I should have a margin. And remember, margin's the space on the outside. I'm going to set a margin to 0.5 rem 0. Oh, that's an O, not a 0. Okay, they got a little bit of space, but it doesn't feel like a lot. Oh, that's the problem. It's just me adding a goofy space between the 0.5 and rem. We've got that green stripe we were looking for. Everything is fine. And that's really, if I can set any kind, hopefully not a programming example for y'all, but any kind of example, it's when stuff breaks or when stuff's weird, it's not the end of the world. So I'm going to put an input element inside each of my labels. And this is going to be, I think this conceptually makes a lot of sense for me. I've got a label. So this is the connected question answer for this. So I've got my text. What is the question? And the input is going to be my answer. Mario is asking, what's a rem? And a rem is another type of measurement. I'm so sorry that off the top of my head, I can't remember. I believe one rem is set to the default text line size. So generally, one rem, it's a relative, it's a measurement that change. But usually it's going to be one rem will be the size of a line of text. So here we've got half a line of text, space between each one. Yeah. Do you know what? Here's yeah, so I'd look it up on the Mozilla. We've got the building values and units you'll come back to again and again. It's nice and frustrating. Where am I? Where are we? So we're going to add an input after every label. Oh, and I think this is an important one. Include a space here. Are inputs self-closing? I can't remember. Ooh, they look pretty self-closing to me. I can't remember if input is self-closing. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to look it up because I'm very stubborn. What I am going to do is just check. Oh, we've got that screen stripe suggesting, hey, good news. Input was self-closing. You could do input, input, input. I imagine we'll put some more information there in a second. Oh, so follow accessibility best practices. So accessibility is the art, the science of making sure that people using your website from a whole range of different needs have the best chance at being able to use it. And best practices, remember, these are those sort of agreed on approaches to programming that we sort of agree as a field. I like to think of web developers sometimes as a bunch of wizards. And these are sort of the codes of wizardry that we said, well, we agree that you shouldn't turn anybody into frogs unless it's a Tuesday. Yes, that'll be a best practice. It's not a hard rule, but as programmers or as wizards, we sort of softly agree or more stridently agree that this is the way we want to do things. We're going to link the input labels and the label elements using the for attribute. This is where I think forms start to feel really confusing. But this is cool. It can't hurt us, right? So what we're going to do really is we're going to say, hey, I've got a name tag that says first name, and I'm going to put it on my question, and I'm going to put it on my answer. This is especially useful for folks using screen readers because it'll come through. And if it just reads all of the options out loud, that's going to sound wild. I'm not going to know which question goes with which answer, especially if they're multiple choice. Woof. Where if it says, hey, here's the first name, and it reads me a question, here's a first name input, I'm going to have kind of a chill or hopefully a chill understanding of what it wants from me, what's going on here. So here, we're going to add the for attribute. I'm going to say for first name. Oh, heck. You might say, Jess, it says first name in the question. Do I still have to have this label? I say, I think you really do, because it's not always going to be immediately apparent which answer goes with which question. This is going to be a lot more helpful for your users. And it's best practice so your other wizard friends won't yell at you. And I bet you money, now that I was like, this is not as hard as we think it is, I bet I'm definitely going to mess it up. One thing I'm going to do just to be lazy is I'm going to copy and paste these 4 tags, and I'm going to put one in a label and one in the input tags. And then I'm going to come through and fill in the actual input on these. This feels a little bit more chaotic, but this kind of feels a little bit more like the way I'd actually do this if somebody did this. I feel like such a liar saying, hey, don't worry, programming can't hurt you. Really, stress can always hurt you. But right now, we're just learning and it can't hurt us yet. Got a new password. Ooh, new password is a value, not just password. New password. I'm feeling very, very gently confident, a little tiny bit confident that maybe this is going to work okay. I'm going to check our code. Ooh, it didn't. Input element should have an ID of first name. Okay. Y'all are going to help me label 4. Well, let's check. 4 equals cheese. Okay. This looks exactly like what I've typed. Let's check. Oh gosh, let me make this bigger for you, my loves. Oh, that's very familiar of me, my loves. My dear friends. Oh, do you know what? 4 is in label and then it's ID. Do you know I'm not going to pull her to the floor? But Kinjal pointed this out that I was just on autopilot and I was like, Jess. 4 goes in your label, but it's ID in inputs, isn't it? Y'all were just listening to me chuckle, and have the most laid back time. Is that right? Do we feel right here? So Kinjal is my associate helping with this, and very, very shy, but we'll try and politely request more and more screen time someday, softly in a non-bullying way. Kinjal is so smart and so interesting and so nice, and may have just saved us 10 minutes of me frowning for look at that. I was just going to mutter darkly forever. And all of y'all are yelling it as well. You're like, just it's ID. You're doing it wrong. It's ID. I was absolutely doing it wrong. And I was doing it wrong so cheerfully. Cool. So the type lets us know what kind of data to expect. So if we don't add a type, it just assumes we want text. And this is great because we do actually want text for some of these. And you say, well, Jess, don't we want text for all of these? And I say, ha 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 ha. It's a very evil laugh. Email is text, but it's not a text input. So an email lets you type text in there and it doesn't do any email validation. I can give you the fakest, weirdest sounding email and it'll still pass. But the email type says, hey, I want to see an @ sign in this and I want to see a dot in this. Otherwise, I'm not going to give it to you. Cool. And now we've also got this password type. And the thing that the password type does is it'll give you little stars. And instead of password 123, don't use that password. Please don't use your password. I'll show up at your house and shake you. Instead of saying, oh, I'm going to do password 123 and have it show up on your screen, it'll show little stars. So we're going to use the password input instead of the text input. So what do we do? So type. Where do we have the type? I think the type goes in our input, don't we? That's really what we're going to have as a type. And do you know what? If we're wrong, we're just going to be wrong. Well, do you know what? When things go right, it's because y'all help me. When things go wrong, that's on me. So the type here is text. And one cool thing about the tests is we can check our test even before check our code. Okay, and it says not quite. And here's giving us a little bit of a hint, but I think we probably need type text in the first two as well. So your name is probably text. I'd be very impressed if you had a name that wasn't text. Your last name is probably text as well. But the type we want for our email, and actually, let me give you a little bit of space. We've got this input. Here's where we're at. We're in our input element inside our label. And here we're going to say, Hey, do you know what? I'd like this type to be an email. Okay, okay, okay. And in here, I'm in the input for our password input. I would really like my type. I'd really like for this to be a password. Okay. How about we check our code? I'm like 20% confident. And that is the best and the scariest feeling you can get in programming where, okay, this works. I wasn't confident, but it works fine. An even scarier feeling is when it works and you have no idea why. So the first input type with it, yeah. Oh, heck. This is going to get conceptually weird. Let's get conceptually weird together. The first input element with the type of submit is automatically set to submit its nearest parent form element. So what this is saying is, hey, if I make a submit button, it's going to submit everything in that parent element. So I don't need a go button, go button, go button, go button for each one. I can have a go button for all of these at the same time, and that's okay. So here, to handle form submission, so to send this user data to this address, yeah, let's go ahead and I'm going to stretch this out a little bit. Tell me if it makes it look weird. Does it make it look weird? Makes it look a little weird. I'm going to add a submit. Oh, where? After the last field set element. Really? I'm terrible at reading instruction. To handle the form submission, that's what we want to do. After the last field set element, you said last. I believe you. And you know what? If we're wrong, we're just wrong. Being wrong is not the end of the world. I am your teacher. I work for you. I am not your boss. Unless you break code of conduct or are mean to the other students, there's no way I'm going to fuss at you. There are no stakes here. So we're going to put input. And I think, by default, it automatically becomes that text, isn't it? And this is self-closing. But when we didn't do that slash last time, it added a slash for us. Here, what we want is a type is submit. Oh, that's become a little button. Oh, that's become a little button. Does it matter if it's a big S or a little s? It does not. Okay, that's chill. And I want to send the value to submit. You say, well, Jess, it already says type. So I'm going to space you out just for readability. Value. I just set this to submit as well, but capital S. And you see that as soon as I set a value, thank you, my submit went away. That's because it's a default. That's baked in. And here we say, well, okay, I'd like to override the default. And that's something we're going to do in CSS a lot. That's something we're going to do in HTML a lot. I'm terrible at JavaScript, so I think it's probably a concept that'll show up in JavaScript a lot as well. But what we're going to do, SUBMIT, submit. Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry. Is that a little bit better? You are very, very patient. Let me do that again just to show it off. I do apologize. I had made the window bigger, but not more scrolled down. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So here, yeah, you can't see the button at all. Ha ha ha. Oh, you can't see the bottom. I was cackling to be like, yeah, the button got really small, but you mean a minute ago. Yeah. So the value here, I can submit, we see, but it doesn't have to be, hey, send me the data. I can write whatever I want on this and it's fine. Hey, send me the, that's not going to work. Code does not pass. Are we down far enough? Yeah. But here it's asked me to say submit, and I think that's terribly creative. But let's check our code. Everything's fine, and everything's going to be fine. Actually, do you know what? I'm going to cheat for a second. We're on step 20. And I want to see how many steps have we got in this. 62. 60. It's got 62. But the next thing we've got is a project. So let's go ahead and get at least halfway through this. Continue to suffer in so much as learning is suffering. Let's continue to begrudgingly sigh through this a little bit longer, and then we'll take a break in about, you want to take a break in about 10 minutes? Oh gosh, we've got, let's take a break at 23. So we're going to do 3 more of these, and then we're going to answer some questions. So while I'm doing the next 3 of these, please, please, please give me your questions. We'll go ahead and go over them together. So I'll start this, but go ahead and start hitting me with your questions. Oh, and Esther's saying, hey, so the value is the text that's going to be showing up in my submit button. You are perfectly, completely, absolutely, immovably correct. So now we want to make our form more interactive. So we're going to add the required attribute to our input in our field sets. What do we think this does? If I say, hey, I want to set these questions, I want to set these field sets to required. I bet it means, so right now I can submit that. Well, I mean, it doesn't really do anything. Let's restart this step. Yeah, just reset the so it doesn't really do anything because we don't have a server set up. And we'll talk about that later on. Everything's fine. But here, it did try to submit it. And once we set the required attribute, it won't submit unless there's text in here. So we're going to come into the first field set, and I'm going to say, oh, add the required input. I don't remember the required attribute, so let's look it up. Just me consistently like, hey, attribute required attribute. Show me how to do it though. Just required? Do I just write required? Oh, where are you? Required equals required. Okay, that feels like a weird syntax, but you're telling me required equals required to the, I'm doing it wrong. To the input elements in the first field set. That makes more sense. Making this whole field set required doesn't make a bit of sense at all. We're going to add this input is required, and I can add it at the end after ID and type and required, or I can add it at the front, and I think it'll work just the same. I can add it to the middle. Where I actually put this shouldn't matter. It's mostly that the syntax was right, and it is not. Oh, gosh. Input ID require. What have I done wrong here? I should give the fourth input. You know what? Let's reset you. And this is great because we're not going to lose all of our code. Nothing bad is going to happen to us. Oh, I don't. Oh, so Kai's pointing out it's just the required. I thought so too. Here, required equals required. That feels weird, doesn't it? Okay, yeah. Y'all are just like, Jess, that's so weird. That's so weird. Just required. Yeah. So it doesn't need a value attached to this. That's chill. 1, 2, 3. I wonder why the test didn't pass with okay. I have a word with you, MDN, because that felt very weird. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to write them a note later to be like, oh, hey, team. Okay, so we've got the certain type attributes come with inbuilt form validation. That means like when I say, hey, this is an email, it's got to have, and it must look like an email address. But we can also override the defaults. Yeah? So here when we've got our password, I can use an attribute called minimum length to say, I'm requiring you to have a password, please, please, please. Or please give me a password, please, please, please. But the password must be at least 8 characters. Why? Why might I, as somebody who runs a website, oh, Michael, that's my favorite way to cheat. If you ever get stuck, you can look in the next exercise. Oh, do you know what? And you're absolutely right. So it's both required and checked that don't need any values assigned to the attributes. We say required, it's just required. It's chill. So what we're going to do here, where am I? What are we doing? We're going to come only to our password one. We're going to set the minimum length of 8. And why might I want to set a minimum length for a password? Where am I? So in my password, I want to set, hey, look, hey, friend coming to my form. If you're going to have a password for this, I really want, and some of y'all are absolutely right when you say, oh, you know what? I think that longer passwords are more secure. And I think that's true too. Oh, wait, that's not how we're writing HTML, aren't we? Minimum length, I want that to be 8, please. We check our code. Everything's fine. It's like, cool. I totally get what you're going at. You haven't written this in CSS syntax like you tried to. And I get that what you want to do here is say at least. Jeff, Jeff, Jeff. Okay, this is not at all on topic, but let's talk about passwords. Actually, no, this is a little bit on topic because if you go into your very first, very fancy tech job and you use bad passwords, you'll probably get in trouble eventually. And passwords ideally should be long, they should be unique. And that means if you've got a password for Discord, it should be completely different for your password to your email and completely different for your password to your, I don't know what kids do today. And there was a group of folks who really, really liked the idea of passphrases. Let me actually find this. XKCD, correct horse. A. Look at DuckDuckGo is like, I know what you want. I'm going to go get it. So there was this really, really good, very difficult looking one saying, hey, let's talk about different types of good passwords. And this, you'll see this used by tech nerds all the time and say, hey, what really? So these are very, very, this is bits of entropy. So this is how long it would take a computer to crack your password, not a person. So this is saying, hey, if you mix letters and numbers, which is a common thing, we used to get arguments around this. It's kind of easy for a computer to guess it, but for you as a person, you say, But 4 common random words is really hard for a computer to guess. And because humans are in so much as we're designed to do anything except for love life and eat fruit and take naps, we're designed for stories. So it says, hey, if you think of 4 words and connect them together, like correct horse battery staple, that's so easy for humans that you've already memorized it. So this kind of forward password isn't the only way to do passwords. I really like randomly generated passwords and a password manager. So you only need to remember the password for your password manager. Don't actually use correct horse battery staple, please. And then it remembers all your other passwords for you. But the big thing is please, please, please use new passwords for every service because breaches happen. But if you use the same password for everything, it can be super dangerous for you if one of your passwords gets leaked. It just opens up a whole bunch of danger everywhere. I'm so sorry. I went on a little journey talking about passwords, and I'm going to answer that. I'm going to fix this one, and then we're going to answer your questions, and everything's going to be chill. Custom validate. Oh, we already did this. Do this last one, and then questions. Oh, last two. Type password. We could use the pattern attribute. Ooh, hang on. Is it okay if we don't really talk about regular expressions? Because I try so hard not to swear. So regular expressions are a type, I'd argue regular expressions are a type of programming. I am so bad at regular expressions, I can't even tell you. But we're not going to do any hard ones right here. Oh, somebody's saying that they really like the Mozilla password generator and manager. I am also, oh heck, a fan. So I used to work over there back at the day, and they've got a really, really good team over on the Firefox team, and really good security. Hang on, I'm gonna grab some water. Most important programming tool is water or fancy tea. Let's go ahead and get the Wikipedia article. Oh, actually, does MDN? MDN has a guide to regular expressions. This means I don't have to teach you at all. I mean, so regular expressions are, I think of them as a little program. They're rules to set patterns, to recognize patterns. And I am so bad at them. I was gonna say I cry every time I have to do them, but you know what I do when I have to do a regular expression at work is I go get Ramon and ask for help. And he always helps. He's so patient. Yeah. So this is, if you're brand new to programming, this is going to look so hard. Oh, oh, that was not me putting in the regex 101 link. That was the much smarter, much cooler Kinja. Oh, I'm going to take a look at that. So regular expressions are super, super hard, but they're not hard for everybody. I meet tons of people who are just magically good at that, or actually engage with them instead of avoiding them. So I don't want to scare you off regular expressions, but right now we don't have to think too much of this. But let's talk through what this one means. So input, we're going to use the input element, and then we're going to have it match A to Z 0 to 5. And then here in parentheses, 8. And here, what this is saying is like, hey, I want you to validate. I want you to test. I want you to check that this password has only letters A to Z plus the numerals 0 to 5. And here I'm setting a minimum of 8. But where we've got an empty space, I'm pretty sure that's where we would usually set a maximum. Did you? Yeah. So let's come in here. And because I've got the moral support from all of you, I'm going to do this without freaking out too much. Oh, and go ahead and start handing me any questions you might have, and we'll handle them right after I have a teeny tiny breakdown looking at regular expressions. So one thing that's really notable is I've got the lowercase letters A to Z, which that plus the hint lowercase letters here suggests that I'm not going to be able to use capital letters in my password. I don't think this is a really good security addition, but well, let's, yeah. So I'm going to add a pattern attribute. Oh, heck. Okay. And here, I'm going to say it's a regular expression by adding these little square brackets, is what you might call them at work. But since we've been saying pointy babies and curly babies, these are my little block babies. We're little block babies. And inside our block babies, I'm going to say, hey, the kinds of characters I'm really interested in accepting are lowercase a all the way up to lowercase b. So just go ahead and give me any lowercase Roman letters that you feel comfortable with. We're cool with that. We're cool. And go ahead, and if you like, a number's going to be just fine. Zero's cool. And weirdly, I only want up to 5. Oh, we're going to scroll up a little bit. I'm so sorry, my loves. Does that look okay? I'm going to really try and be much more conscious about that. I do apologize. So, yeah, we're going to 0 to 5. And then if I remember correctly, oh, and then we want these curly babies. Okay, so these are the kinds of letters I want. We're going to get our curly babies in here. And I want at least 8 letters. But I don't want to set a maximum. I'm not fussed about that. Okay. So here, when I create a password, oh, do not show people passwords from my Google account. Thank you very much. If I tried to use just the capital letter H and submit, oh, okay. So first, this is a really good example. Jess, my surname is now Jess. This is not my real email address. Please don't look it up. hello@jess.s. That is obviously not a real top level domain. And my new password is H. Ooh. So when I had a blank required one, it said, hey, yo, you got to fill in this field. It's absolutely required. Oh, and what happens if, what happens if I just say Jess here? Ooh. Not even being able to type my own name. Ooh, look at this. This is saying, hey, look, that's obviously not an email address. Please sort yourself out. Still not an email address, but it's because we're not using a validation service. And our password here, I'm going to say lowercase a, ECD 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I think that's going to work. And by work, it means, hey, the server's not set up. Don't worry about it. Let's check our code. Oh, it's saying I should remove the min length element. And that should still work because we've got our minimum length. Do we want to try what the max is? Let's say 10. Yeah. So we could set a maximum if we wanted. I think setting a maximum password is kind of a jerk move. It doesn't take up that much space to store longer passwords, and longer passwords tend to be more secure. If we say correct horse battery staple, that's way more than 10 letters. But we're going to check our code. I think there's a default max. It's probably 255. To submit and go to our next challenge. And really what we're going to do is answer some of y'all's questions after this. So please, please, please give me y'all's questions while I do this thing that's going to feel really familiar. So I'm going to do these very, very familiar things. But hit me with it. Well, let's just see if folks have asked questions yet. Oh, here's a fantastic question. It's like, hey, we had the 8 for the minimum. What's the comma for? I was like, fabulous question. Perfect question. And do you know what? One Kinjal already answered to be like, oh, cool. That 8 is the minimum. On the other side of that comma is where you could put the maximum. And you could put I think you could put any number over 8. And that would be where, oh, look at you. Heck. AutoCAD is after my own heart saying, hey, let's break this down in a very formalized model. X and Y, minimum for X, maximum for Y. Everything's fine. Oh, and this is a great time. So I'm going to be answering some questions, but we'll also answer questions on the forum and on the Discord. If you want to grab a coffee or hop to the restroom for a second, that's super chill. Go. Oh, can I use the minimum maximum for the time? Yes, I think you can. Because it's a regular expression, because it's just validating the input, I'm 70% sure that you can. Ooh. And when you don't know the answer to something, you can ask a question. You got me saying, 70% sure you can't, which is not a very reassuring answer. You could look this up. This seems absolutely like the kind of question that I'd try it, like go back one and experiment with that and say, hey, can I put this on name? Oh, do you know what? You absolutely can do this because sometimes I see people hit a problem where people have put at least some developers have sometimes put a minimum length on surnames, whereas YU is a common surname in some parts of the world. And sometimes you'll see people understandably very upset saying, hey, your service says that my surname is not valid because it doesn't meet the minimum length. So you can do it, but it is a super, super mean jerk move to do. Let's see what this does. Yeah. Does anybody, I'm just checking to see if there's other questions. Oh, heck. Sorry, I'm just leaving you hanging there. Oh, so freaking is adding a pattern to a password field a good idea in general? I'm so sorry that I don't have a ton of existing information on best practices for passwords. How about best practices? Passwords in HTML forms. And this is a long search. Oh, look at this. So this is from the Google team. Web.dev is Google. sign-in form best practices. Oh, I don't want any cookies. Wait, I don't have time to mess with cookies with you all here. So, oh, heck, I'm so sorry. I'm looking this up in the wrong window. I am the worst, meanest teacher in the world. There we go. So I searched for sign-in form best practices and got this Google one. Oh, we've got a written tutorial. We've got a code one. So you have asked a good question. I don't know a lot about this, but I'm going to send you to another teacher, a better teacher. And that's going to be super, super chill. The answer is probably somewhere in here, but I'm so sorry that I want to make sure that I don't. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I'll remove the comments pretty quickly as well. Jeff is making a really good point. And let's talk a little bit about let's talk about server side later on. So your servers are, I like to think of servers as waiters or waitresses in a restaurant, but that's a little bit more complicated. There are also other computers. So they're the computers that keep your web. So your website, the pictures for it, the links for will all live on a website. The files sort of live on your server, but also where you're sending this information. This link, where am I? Let's go all the way up. This form action goes to a server, goes sent to another computer who does some special things. And Jeff is pointing out that server side validation exists. Validation is what we were doing here with saying the type is a password. That's a type of validation. I say, hey, well, and yet email is a better example. Here, the type email is a validation. I'm only going to accept this if it's a good email, if I think it's an email. Whereas down here, I say, hey, this pattern is a type of validation as well. And this is validation right where we're working, where Jeff is pointing out, hey, you know what? There are services that do validation on your server as well. And if you're doing validation here and validation on the server, there's a chance for them to disagree and to fight a little bit. Also, we're lazy. We don't want to do it twice. Jeff, thank you so much. That is the most gracious way somebody's ever come in where I'm like, look, I don't know. You're like, oh no, I got you. Let's go on and let's zip through a couple more of these. We've been doing this for a little while and I don't want to make y'all tired. How many did we have altogether? We had 60 something, 62. Let's go ahead and try and get through 31. So we'll zip through these a little bit fast because these are going to feel very, very reductive. These are the same thing we just did. We can go. And really, that's going to be so the big things I want y'all to learn are, of course, I want you to learn web development. Oh, so Cassian, that's a really good point. Say, hey, are we to learn in this course about where the form data gets sent and how to receive it? It's hinted at a little bit, and there are some separate videos on the free Codecamp YouTube. If you give me a shove in the Discord or on the forum, I'll go ahead and try and dig them out. I think it's just hinted at in this course mostly. Just because there's so much to learn and it's so big and scary that I think, oh, hang on. While we do this, can we talk about abstraction? So abstraction is when you take away some of the complexity or much more commonly hide some of the complexity of what you're doing. And sometimes that's a tool that makes it easy. I'm trying to think about how much to abstract out abstraction. So business account or personal. But abstractions when we hide some of the complexity, and that's especially important for when you're learning things. If you've looked around on YouTube or on Twitch for programming stuff, there's so much stuff like web development, even just web development has gotten so complicated. There's so many tools. And when I talk to learners, they say, oh, hey, do I need to learn React? Do I need to learn about WebAssembly? Do I need to learn about it's cool. It's cool. It's cool. There's so much stuff to learn. But right now, what Free Code Camp is trying to do with this abstraction, and what I'm trying to do with my abstraction, is say, hey, there is so much stuff you could learn. Let's go ahead and take a deep breath and just get chill with some of the basics. And then if you really, really want to write Rust in the browser, don't worry if you don't understand what that means. That's using a non-programming language to write web develop or using WebAssembly to write Rust to use in the browser is possible, but that's using a weird technology that we will never learn about as part of this course and a programming language that doesn't usually live in the web. So it's just a weird way to do a different thing. And I'm just using it as an example of something that's so complicated that we don't need to worry about at all. We are lazy, lazy. I mean, y'all aren't babies. I am a large lazy baby. Let's go ahead and do our inputs. I could have been talking this whole time, and I had to wave my weird arms. And we're going to say type equal to radio this time. So if it sounds like I'm hiding stuff from you, I am. I will always try and answer like, yeah, that looks like it's working. I'll always try and preview what's going on. But a lot of times we say, "Hey, Jess, what about this?" And I'll be like, "Hey, let's be cool." um, not that you can't ask, but like, "Hey, let's preview this. Let's grab a link. We'll learn about it later, maybe." Oh, and the encoder is really helping me out and giving me a really, really bite size to say, okay, your form data gets sent to your server, sent to a database. And then we could talk. We definitely learn about the APIs in the JavaScript course. And Robbie is asking if hey, what do we do after the web dev course? I got you. I would personally go take the JavaScript course with Ramon. He's a much better teacher. He's super nice. He's so cute too. He's just like a really happy bunny. And it's going to teach you a little bit more about JavaScript and interactivity. I'm not pushing any specific database. So, should we talk about databases very quickly? A database is like a big empty library for you to put information. And it gets worse. There's different kinds of databases. We don't care about those right now. We just need to know that a database is like a bunch of empty cubby holes where I can put this data. Yeah. And the encoder, I say, hey, the form data gets sent to a server and the database lives on that server and it gets put boop, boop, into the right cubby. I say, hey, I'm going to put this information here in this database, in this empty library you've got, and you can come back and get it later. We'll talk about APIs another time. I've got a really good way to explain APIs to beginners. I think I have a really good way to explain APIs to beginners. But let's not get too bogged down today. If y'all want to ask me tomorrow, like, Jess, you said you'd tell us what an API is. We could do that, but let's not. API is just it's just a complicated programming way to ask for information and show that you deserve it. So we've got our two radio buttons. This is going to be, this can't hurt us. This is just a form. And here, terms. Did you want terms and conditions? We don't have to have the text yet. Everything's fine. Oh, y'all are all talking about how great Ramon is, right? Right. Do you know who else is extremely cool? Is Kinjal, the person who's very silently adding all the useful information to this. Really, everybody on this course but me is extremely aggressively cool. It's unnecessary. It's quite nice. I quite like it. Where am I? Where are we? So the label here is going to be, I'm going to copy type radio. I'm just doing this because I'm lazy. Everything's fine. Everything's not fine. Everything's fine. And what we're going to do, we're going to come in here. Oh, I'm going to copy all of this. And you say, Jess, you can't. I say, you can't stop me. The input type isn't a radio. Input type here is a checkbox. Yeah. And we don't have our questions. I bet that's coming in next. What do you mean? Oh, also market is required. Here's where free code camp disagreed with MDN because I don't want to write required, just required. Okay, so here I'm just going to chill out and put in these texts here. Add a space. The space makes sense. Hey, do I want to? Oh, so this feels like a bank thing. Very technical, isn't it? A bank thing. And I accept the terms and conditions. Yeah, well, this feels all right. With a ticker code. Hmm? First labor. One space at the front? One space at the front? Y'all are just being weird. Oh, okay. So you want a space at the front. I thought I was being very smug, just like add a space. All right, look. I think y'all are being weird. Not y'all. Like I think the instruct. I did give my label one space. All right. It puts before the text. Oh, oh, oh. Y'all are merciful. I was just being a goof all day. And I was like, it absolutely says in the instructions, which you should read much more closely than I do, to put these after the input. Okay, and that's why you want the space. The tests aren't always magical. They can't always save us from ourselves. Tests and good learning partners really can. Okay, that's chill. Let's go ahead and give them a name attribute. Where does the name go? Where does the name go? Let's check. Same name. Okay. Account type. And here, is that the for and ID? It says name attribute. Okay. Okay, somebody's saying, "Oh, the instructions here are a little subtle." I'm gonna give them more credit. I think that they're a little, I'd say ambiguous, which is the same thing. I think it's really important because this is the type of instruction you're gonna get programming. Like, "Hey, do this thing." You'd be like, "Well, what thing?" And they're just a little ambiguous. Get the name, we've set it to account type. Everything's fine. Everything's going to be fine. Yeah, so I think this is a really good point to say, "Oh, cool. We need a name and ID to link these, even if they're nested." And that's true. So nesting them does add some semantic meaning, but for folks using assistive technologies, and it's not just screen readers, but for folks using keyboard navigation, this will let us tab through very, very quickly. Yeah. Oh, he's like, "Hey, you know what? Like, why is free code kept so picky about where we put spaces? Because the code will still work fine without." Here, this is one of the very, very few points where the space actually matters, because this is our input. And then we have a space here before this, the same way the space gave us a character space of space. So this was actually a quite good one. Ooh. Yeah, 28. All right, let's do this. Let's just do one or two more. These are feeling really familiar, and I don't want to do them again and again and again and really save y'all from the grudging misery. It's not misery, it's just a 4. So input and okay, so 4 and yeah, we did this last time, and in the label 4? Yeah. It was 4 last time. I'm gonna just is the scariest word ever. I'm gonna put 3 4s in here. After input, do we think after input? Oh, but we wanna somebody suggested we do this after input. I think you might be right because I'm very rarely right, but let's go ahead and see. And then in here in the input, we want an ID, don't we? Where is input? Where's input? I think with enough time, you get really, really mellow about squinting and trying to sort these out. Personal ID, 4, and the ID should be the same. Okay. Let's try business account as well. I'm 20% sure this will work. Oh, little space. 20% sure this will work, which is really more sure than I am about most things. Okay. Okay. That's fine. Everything's fine. Let's link to the terms and conditions. Ooh. So I think I want this to be a link, maybe. Oh. Only the text terms and conditions should be a link. See, this is why this is why y'all should read the instruction, even though I don't do it very well. And we've done so many links. We feel really confident with the link. We get a for our anchor tag, a ref for where we're throwing that. I'm gonna end my A here. I'm gonna stop being an anchor. Link you. Yeah. 70% confident. Boom. All right. Fine. Woof. Woof. Okay. This is different. This feels a little bit hard. Let's do this one as our last one. And then if you've got any questions, go ahead and drop them in the chat now. Super low stress. And if you don't forget that you've always got the forum, you've always got the Discord, everything. Could I get my absolutely brilliant colleague to drop a link to the forum and the Discord up on the thingy doofer? The thingy doofer. Up on the banners, if that's all right. Kinjal, you are a gift. So, people. Okay. Oh, heck. I'm actually reading the instructions sometime, and then I'm going to go ahead and type this outside the field set. Oh, actually, while I'm doing this, I might have some questions for you all. So your homework is going to be to finish this, but also to relax. How are y'all going to relax later? Okay, label. And our text here is, I'm going to copy, upload a profile picture. And now we're going to use a brand new input that we haven't used. I think it's a little bit scary. New stuff. Oof, scary. An input accepting a file upload. So we know that the type is a checkbox, but it's given us enough information, but it's making us ask someone, look it up, or get weird. So here I know that I want to use a type. Is file? Okay. I said there were 3 things that you could do when you don't know it. The 4th one is go ahead and guess. So here I was like, hey, add an input accepting a file upload. Oh, you know what? It wasn't even being mysterious. It says it has a type file. I'm going to check my code. Everything's fine. Let's just look at the next one. Oh, we can do that. We can do this. This feels just like the password. This is chill. This is going to feel a little bit weird and like a little bit of a stretch, but y'all can absolutely do this. This cannot hurt you. And if you get stuck, come onto the forum, come onto the Discord. We are joyously happy to try and help. Amazing. So we've been doing this for almost an hour and a half. So forever. And y'all have been so patient. Let's get rid of this. Oh, we've got somebody saying, oh, I'm going to watch Barbarian. Is that a show, a movie? I think. Ooh. Somebody else said, oh, somebody is taking a 10-mile walk after this session. That is amazing. That is a lot of walking. I hope you get a nap as well. So your homework is going to be please, if you can, come on in and try and finish up this form if you can. Yeah. Let's take a look at tomorrow when we come back, we're going to have a look at that very first project. I'm not going to do your project for you, but it's going to be super laid back. I'm not seeing a whole bunch of questions yet, but don't worry. If you're on a little bit of a delay and you got a question, come on into the Discord. It'll be super, super chill. Or come on into the forum. Everything's fine. Your homework, please try and finish this section if you can. No big deal if you need some more time. There's no attendance. Nobody's checking your homework. None of this is going to hurt you. But as well, please take some time if you can to relax. Learning is so much energy. Learning is so much harder than we give ourselves credit for. I would absolutely love if every time y'all have to learn a big new stressful blob, that you also think, oh, I also have to be a little bit gentle with myself. I'm going to go ahead and let you go. We're going to come right back this very same time tomorrow, and it's going to be fine.